We're almost halfway through the year, and a lot of people are running on empty without fully realizing it. Grow Therapy helps you find care that's covered by insurance before burnout becomes the baseline. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans, including Medicaid in some states. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound. While I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
Thursday, 26th of September, 1991. The scrub out past Goodna is dry and still in the early afternoon heat. Redbank Plains Road runs through it like a spine, the suburbs petering out on one side and the bush pressing in on the other. It's not wilderness, it's just on the edge of things. 2 Queensland police officers have hopped off their trail bikes and they're picking their way through the undergrowth. There's all sorts of things to contend with. Blackberry bushes, the prickly little bastards, broken bottles, and the bloody flies. You can't go 5 seconds without having to swipe them away. The officers are tired, sore. They've been searching for 3 days. And by now everyone who's been part of this investigation is carrying a dread that they can't quite name and can't quite put down. They smell it before they see it. In that Queensland heat, after 3 days, there's no mistaking what that smell means. They follow the trail of flies that have already found her, and the scrub is loud with the buzz. About 50 to 60 metres off the road, down a track leading to a set of beehives, something is lying in the undergrowth. Partly clothed, face down, not moving, perfectly still. This is Leanne Holland, and she's just 12 years old. What has been done to this child is so deliberate, so savage, that she can't be identified by her face. She'll have to be identified instead by fingerprints. The officers radio it in and they wait with her in the heat and the flies. They don't talk. There's nothing to say. One of the coppers offers his partner a smoke. His mate's hands are shaking so badly he can barely retrieve it from the packet of Winnie Reds. This is the story of who did that to her. And maybe even who didn't do it to her. I'm your storyteller, Mark, and this is Truth. If you're new here, In every episode, we dig into a true Australian story that deserves to be told. This is part one of a two-part episode. It's a request for Summer. Thanks so much, Summer, for reaching out. This is part one. A walk to the shops. Goodna sits on the southwestern edge of Brisbane, stuck between the Queensland capital and the city of Ipswich, kind of like a horse that's been boxed in coming down the home straight. If you know anything about horse racing, you'll know that in that situation, you're well and truly up against it. And Goodna's kind of like that. The houses here are modest. Rental properties mostly, blocks of land big enough to feel spacious, but not big enough to feel private. Working class neighbourhoods in the truest sense of the phrase. The kind of place where people come not because they choose it, but because it was what was available at the time. And the good folk of Goodna wear this like a badge of honour. They don't mind being the underdog. They don't mind having to work hard for respect. The Holland family live at 70A Alice Street. Terry Holland is divorced, and he shares the house with his youngest daughter Leanne and his eldest daughter Melissa. By the middle of 1991, Melissa's de facto partner has moved in. His name is Graham Stafford. He's 28 years old, British born, came to Australia as a kid. He's a sheet metal worker, a knockabout bloke. He grew up on the Sunshine Coast, and people who know him describe him as a carefree and easygoing sort of fella. And he and Melissa have been together about 12 months when they move into Alice Street. Leanne Sarah Holland is 12 years old. She's born on the 1st of October 1978, which means at the time of this tale, she's exactly 1 week away from her 13th birthday. She's in grade 8 and just about to start the school holidays, which was the time of year that a kid like her, described as a free spirit, absolutely loved. Her best friend is a girl named Trisha Lynch. She lives about 1 kilometre away at the Gales Caravan Park. Leanne walks over there all the time. She knows this neighbourhood the way kids knew places back in the 90s. The shortcuts, the different faces, the rhythms of a small community. And Leanne and her best mate Trisha were looking forward to spending a couple of weeks over the holidays, listening to their favourite cassettes on their Walkman and having some simple, carefree adventures. Monday the 23rd of September 1991 is the first day of these September school holidays. And for Graham Stafford, it's a rostered day off. So Terry Holland goes off to work, so too does Melissa. And for a stretch of that morning, the house belongs to Stafford and Leanne. It is a completely ordinary morning, except for the small drama that 12-year-old girls specialise in creating. Leanne, you see, wants to dye her hair. She doesn't ask her older sister Melissa. I think we can read between the lines and determine that she knows what her older sister will say. So she rings her dad at work first. Terry says yes. And then Stafford, upon finding out about this, rings Melissa at her job to mention what's happening, getting ahead of it before she finds out another way. Melissa rings her father to talk it over. So 3 phone calls, on record, all about dyeing hair. A girl on the first morning of her holidays working every available channel to get what she wants. But importantly too, it also tells us she is the kind of kid that still worries about getting permission. These behaviours, these actions are completely perfectly 12 years old. Then, at around 9:30, with the matter apparently settled, Leanne decides to head out. She's off to the shops for hair dye, or maybe to the hairdresser, about 500 metres up the road. Stafford can't quite remember what she said to him. He does watch her though as she wanders off. She's wearing a long-sleeved purple jumper and a black skirt. And in true Queenslander fashion, she doesn't even bother putting shoes on. When she doesn't come home that afternoon, nobody panics. As we've mentioned, she's 12, it's the first day of the holidays, and she's got a best friend just a kilometre away, and they've got run of the neighbourhood. She'll turn up. She always turns up. And Monday evening comes and goes. On Tuesday morning, the alarm goes off. Terry gets up and goes to work the way he always does. Melissa goes about her day, and Stafford goes off to work on the Tuesday as well. Nobody says it out loud, the thing that they're starting to think, because saying it out loud might make it real. And there's still a perfectly reasonable explanation for all this. She just stayed at Trish's. She lost track of time. She was having a great night with her mates and just forgot to ring. You tell yourself these things. You believe them for as long as you can. But there is a phone at the Stafford house, and it's not ringing. There's a front door that's not opening. And as Tuesday morning becomes Tuesday afternoon, the reasonable explanations are getting harder to hold on to. The silence where Leanne should be is becoming deafening. And so on Tuesday afternoon, Melissa and Stafford go to the Lynch place at the caravan park to look for her. But Leanne's not there. Trisha's shock and concern at the reason for their visit raises their anxiety levels up several notches. And so they head home. They wait, pacing the floor, having a cup of tea, maybe two. Bugger it, they need a proper drink. This is getting serious. And when Terry comes home from work, the three of them confront the thoughts they have not yet named. At the end of that discussion, at 5:45 in the afternoon of the 24th of September, they walk into Goodna police station. Together. Melissa, Stafford, Terry. By this time, Leanne has been gone for more than 30 hours. Nobody has seen her. Nobody has heard from her. The purple jumper and the black skirt and the bare feet have not been sighted anywhere in the neighbourhood that Leanne Holland knew like the back of her hand. By Wednesday the 25th, the Goodna Criminal Investigation Branch has escalated Leanne's disappearance into a full investigation. Officers are moving through the neighbourhood, knocking on doors, making inquiries at the caravan park. Items from the house and Stafford's car have been seized, Leanne's diary, her clothing, whatever might tell the story of where she went. It's important to know that this search carries a weight that goes beyond one missing girl. This part of southeast Queensland has a very dark, very recent history. In May 1986, a 20-year-old woman named Sharon Phillips vanished after her car ran out of petrol on Ipswich Road at Wakehole, a few kilometres away. In August 1990, 16-year-old Julianne Gallen disappeared from the same road. The officers who work this corridor know what it means when the phone rings and a girl is unaccounted for. There is no complacency in their efforts. Quite the contrary. On Thursday, the 26th of September, 3 days after Leanne walked out of her Alice Street home and headed down to the shops without a care in the world, they find her. As we mentioned in the opening scene, she's in scrub, off Redbank Plains Road, about 9 kilometres from her home, down a track that leads to a set of beehives, about 50 metres from the road. She has been struck at least 10 times across the head with something heavy and blunt. The pathologist's findings are consistent with a hammer. There are burn marks too on her lower body, and her injuries are so severe that she can't be identified by sight. Leanne Holland was 12 years old, 1 week away from her 13th birthday, and she had to be identified by her fingerprints. When police begin asking questions, the house at 70A Alice Street is the obvious place to start. Of course it is. Leanne lived there, and the last person to see her alive, by his own account, was Graham Stafford. He was at home on a rostered day off. He was alone with her for a stretch of that morning. The logic of focusing on him at the start is not unreasonable. The logic of focusing only on him, though, well, that's worth questioning. Within days of Leanne's body being found, this investigation has taken a very clear shape, and that shape is Graham Stafford. Other legitimate lines of inquiry, the caravan park, the neighbourhood, the corridor of unsolved disappearances that runs along Ipswich Road, do not appear to receive the same, or indeed any, attention. The net is not cast wide. It is cast just once, and it lands on the man who was in the house alone with Leanne. It's also important to analyse Stafford's response during this early phase of the questioning. He does not run. He doesn't even lawyer up and go silent. He cooperates fully from the beginning. He sits through 3 separate police interviews. He gives fingerprints, blood, DNA samples without being compelled to. He consents to searches of the house and his car. He answers all of the questions. He does, in short, everything that a man with nothing to hide would do. Later, when those interviews are studied closely by people like criminologist Paul Wilson, something else emerges. The police officers conducting them are themselves confused about the sequence of dates and times. They stumble over whether things happened on the Monday or the Tuesday. They correct themselves. They contradict their own questions, going backwards and forwards. And in that fog of confusion, Stafford gets turned around too. He corrects himself, he apologises. He says at times that he's not sure anymore. The prosecution will later argue these moments are evidence of a guilty conscience. But Wilson, the criminologist, looks at the same tapes and sees something very different. He sees a man as confused as everyone else in a room where even the detectives can't keep their day straight. But that's later. Much later. Right now, police are combing the house and Stafford's car for clues. Anything they can find to help smooth out the creases in their case against him. And, perhaps inevitably, they will find plenty of items to help them achieve their objective. Daryl Giles, the Courier Mail journalist who has covered this case for decades, puts it plainly. Police were under pressure. There were several unsolved killings in Brisbane at the time, and from day one, he says, they went for the most obvious suspect. Among the people police speak to is Deborah McKinnon, Stafford's former girlfriend of 3.5 years. She describes him as carefree, happy, a man who treated her son like his own. And when police come to her door, she says that there are persistent questions about kinky sex and sex toys. But despite these bizarre lines of questioning, her answers do not change. Stafford, she continues to insist, is a good man. When they can't get the answers from her thereafter, they tell her that they can't use her as a witness at all and leave. McKinnon will later say that not for a single moment did she, a woman who knew Stafford as well as anyone, believe he was capable of this.
I'm Serena Williams, and I'm healthier on Ro. I've lost 34 pounds in a year with GLP-1s, diet, and exercise. On Ro, you can access GLP-1 options, including the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss. Go to ro.co/journey to see if you qualify. 14 to 20% average weight loss in 1 year in non-diabetics with obesity or overweight with a weight-related medical condition versus 2.2% to 3.1% in placebo arm. RX only. To stay informed about serious side effects, go to ro.co/safety.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating Melon Serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Meanwhile, the police are building their forensic case. In the family bathroom, swabs come back positive for human blood. There are drops at the front stairs of the house as well, and on the shower curtain. Taken at face value, this is the beginning of a trail, a crime scene that has been partially cleaned, evidence of a frantic attempt to remove what was left behind after a killing. The boot of Stafford's cream Holden Gemini 2 seems to paint an intriguing picture at first glance. Inside that boot, police find blood on 3 separate items. On a red and black canvas tool bag that Stafford keeps in the boot. On a Chuck's cloth. For our international listeners, that's just a run-of-the-mill dishcloth. And also on a blanket belonging to Melissa. It's important to note that we're not talking about pools of blood. This is not something reminiscent of an 80s slasher film, just small amounts, spots, traces. But perhaps even more tellingly, DNA testing by forensic scientist Angela Van Dahl establishes that the blood on all 3 items matches Leanne's type. We're not talking about a vague similarity. We're talking about a DNA cluster that is shared by just 1 in every 2 million Australians. If you're building a case, that number really does help you out. It's not a conclusive identification by any means, but close enough to one that a jury would feel the weight of it. It says quite clearly, this is not a coincidence. This is not cross-contamination from a household cut. This is Leanne Holland's blood on 3 separate items inside the locked boot of a car to which only Graham Stafford and Melissa Holland have a key. Additionally, during a second examination of the boot, forensic technician Christine Bentley finds something the original officer missed. A single strand of hair on a sponge, a hair consistent with Leanne's. There is also a maggot found in the boot of the car, forensic entomologist Beryl Morris gives evidence that it is the same species and age as those found on Leanne's body. The prosecution will argue it places that body in the boot. The police aren't content at stopping at the evidence in the boot though. Back at the site near where Leanne was found, they discover tyre impressions. The Crown will later argue at trial that they matched the tyres on Stafford's car. And there's a missing hammer as well. Melissa Holland tells police she recalls a silver rectangular-headed hammer kept in the bedroom. And after the 23rd of September, she can't find it. A different hammer, a black one, is later found in the boot of the car. It has no blood on it, and the silver hammer is never recovered. And so, when the searches are complete, this is the forensic case against Graham Stafford. Blood, but only small amounts, matching Leanne Holland's DNA type. A hair matching Leanne's. A maggot in the boot that matches, according to an entomologist, the type found on Leanne's body. Tyre impressions and a missing hammer. The prosecution's reading of this is clear. Leanne was killed in the bathroom. Stafford desperately tried to clean it up. He put her body in the boot, possibly wrapped in an old shower curtain from the house that had been thrown away weeks before and was never recovered. That is their case, laid out plainly, and it has a terrible coherence. But there are things pointing the other way, too. Things the investigation does not spend much time on. The burn marks found on Leanne's body are consistent with a lit cigarette or a heated lighter. Graham Stafford is a lifelong non-smoker. Journalists who later study the case ask the obvious question: does someone really light up a cigarette and start burning a body when they've never smoked in their entire life? That detail from the very first examination of the scene points away from Stafford. It points towards someone else entirely. But police don't appear to treat it as a priority. And let's go back for a moment to the Monday afternoon before any alarm bells have been raised and a full day before Leanne has even been reported missing. On that afternoon, Melissa comes home from work and she and Stafford decide to go shopping together in the Gemini. Under the prosecution's timeline, one that they will give later in court, at that moment, Leanne's body is still in the boot of the car. The boot that Melissa could have opened at any point during that shopping trip. Just imagine yourself in Stafford's position if he was guilty. Driving to Woolies. You've just committed a murder. The murder victim is in the boot. Her sister is by your side. In that moment, he would have to show a level of composure and cunning that is completely off the charts. There is no confession. In fact, we know that Stafford did everything he could to assist police with their inquiries. There are no eyewitnesses or ear witnesses at either the house or at the site where Leanne's body was found. There is no clearly defined motive. And although there were traces found in his boot, there is no blood found on the clothing that Stafford handed over willingly to police. This is despite the fact that the pathologist notes that whoever struck Leanne those 10 or more times would have been covered in blood. Stafford's clothes were clean. And yet, on Saturday the 28th of September 1991, he's arrested. Just 5 days after Leanne walked out that front door and headed down to the shops. His first words when his family come to see him at the watch house are to ask how Melissa is holding up. When he hears that she's ended the relationship, it hits him like a second blow. He maintains his innocence from the moment they put the handcuffs on him. The case file gets handed to the prosecutors. The evidence is packaged and labelled, and the Crown sits down to write the story it's going to tell a jury. It is a compelling story. There's a villain, a clear victim, and a sequence of events. The only problem, as it will turn out, is that significant parts of this story are quite simply not true. The Crown case, prosecuted by David Bullock, is built to feel inevitable. Graham Stafford killed Leanne Holland in the family bathroom at 70A Alice Street on the morning of Monday the 23rd of September 1991. He struck her at least 10 times with the silver hammer Melissa had seen in their bedroom, the hammer that had since gone missing. He cleaned up the scene and carried her body down the front stairs of the house in broad daylight, in full view of the street, and put it into the boot of his car. The body stayed in the boot of his car while he went shopping with his girlfriend. The following day he drove 9 kilometres to Redbank Plains Road. He carried her body down a track not far from a set of beehives and left her there. In an attempt to ground their theory in fact, the prosecution presents the jury with the DNA evidence. They hear about the blood in the bathroom and in the boot, the hair, the maggot, the tyre impressions, and they hear about the missing silver hammer. The trial judge tells the jury something very important. He tells them that the Crown does not have to prove exactly where or how Stafford killed Leanne. The scenario presented by the prosecution is their best attempt at an account. It is not a binding framework. If the jury is satisfied that he did it, they can convict regardless of whether every detail in that story stacks up. And on the 25th of March, 1992, the jury convicts. Graham Stuart Stafford is found guilty of the murder of Leanne Sarah Holland. He is 28 years old, given life imprisonment, with a non-parole period of 15 years. The cell door closes. The questions begin almost before the verdict is cold. Stafford appeals first in 1992. The court dismisses it. He applies to the High Court for special leave. That's refused. He serves on, but Graham Crowley, a former detective that the Stafford family brought in to look at the brief, keeps pulling at threads, and those threads keep coming loose. By 1997, the Attorney General refers the case back to the Court of Appeal under a provision that exists for exactly this situation, when a conviction might have gone terribly wrong. For the first time, evidence that was never put before the original jury is placed before the court. Leo Freeney is a forensic scientist who was not called at trial, and what he tells the court is straightforward and devastating. Given the nature and extent of Leanne's injuries, if she had been killed in that bathroom, there would have been far more blood than police found. Far more, regardless of how well Stafford tried to clean it up. And he says the same about the boot of the car. The amount of blood on those 3 items is not consistent with the body having been stored there from Monday to Wednesday. His evidence is not challenged. Beryl Morris, an entomologist who gave evidence for the Crown at trial, comes back to her own findings. She says too much weight was placed on her original time of death estimates that were based on the maggots on Leanne's body. Using corrected temperature data taken closer to the actual locations, she revises her view. Her new estimate puts the time of death closer to Tuesday morning. when Stafford was at work, his movements verified by colleagues. The scenario the jury accepted, killing in the bathroom, body in the boot, dumped on the Wednesday, is collapsing fast. Given all of this new evidence, one of the three appeal judges, Fitzgerald P., dissents. He finds that the jury convicted Graham Stafford on the basis of evidence that presented, in his words, a significantly mistaken version of events. The other two judges acknowledge the scenario has been undermined, but hold that the remaining evidence, primarily the DNA blood match, is still enough. Fitzgerald P. is outvoted 2-1, and the appeal is dismissed. Stafford applies to the High Court again, and again he's refused. He serves out his time, and in June 2006, after almost 15 years, Graham Stafford walks out of prison on parole. He's not free, not in any meaningful sense. He is a convicted murderer still, released on licence. The conviction stands. The verdict stands. He is subject to conditions. He can be recalled at any time, and everywhere he goes, the case goes with him. The whispers, the finger pointing, the people who read the headlines in 1992 and never bothered to read anything after that. He finds work and also a new partner. He keeps his head down and keeps fighting, just like people from Goodna tend to do. In part 2 of this case, an episode we call Not a Scintilla, we'll explain how and why Stafford's conviction finally collapses on Christmas Eve 2009. And we raise the other question, the one that's never been answered. If Graham Stafford did not kill Leanne Holland, then who did? Someone who has been free this entire time. Someone who was free while Stafford sat in a cell for 15 years. Someone who may still be alive. Struth. Thanks again to Summer for requesting this episode. Part 2 will be out on Friday. But if you can't wait that long, you could have heard both Part 1 and 2 last week if you were a member of Struth Premium over on Patreon. There's links in the description if you want to find out more about that. Or if you'd like to support the show in other ways, I'd really appreciate it if you tell a friend. Give us a rating, make a comment, all that sort of stuff really helps. Thanks again for listening. I'll catch you on Friday.